So Badbury Castle, probably somewhere between the 800 BC and 200 BC, maybe 500 BC, something like that, and probably went out of use in the Roman period. But it is an Iron Age fort, but it's interesting because of its name. Badbury is etymologists think it is the bury of Bada, the fort of Bada, Anglo-Saxon man. But there are 4 hill forts called Badbury in England. There's a 5th one, which is an enclosure that's been ploughed out, and the field is called Badbury. So refusing to climb down, the etymologists have said, well, there's probably a great Anglo-Saxon hero that was associated with the idea of Iron Age hill forts. There are 2 camps in etymology, in toponym etymology. Those who prioritise people's names as being the first element, and those who are more interested in topographical names. I think in this, because I tend to side with the experts, because they've done some of them put in a huge amount of work, and they have brought us a bit of clarity about the Anglo-Saxon past. But sometimes, and they are pretty vicious on the personal name people towards people who think it's all topographical. I think in this case it is topographical. I think there must have been a noun. There was not a personal name. That was associated with hill forts. It was something like Bada. I don't think it's a person at all. It's just, there's Badburys all over the place. So I think in this particular case, these are, maybe it's war or something like that. Bear also in mind, the English Place Name Society says it might be pre-English, pre-Anglo-Saxon, and mentions Mount Badon of King Arthur fame. That is Mons Badonicus is in a post-Roman document. So ignore what I just said about King Arthur. But it could be something to do. I'm not saying that Badbury is Mons Badonicus. I actually think a place called Badon is Badon, but I can't prove it. But anyway, I thought I'd point that out and mention it is important, these Badburys in toponyms. So how does slavery start? Up until a certain point, the only real violence is revenge violence. So somebody comes and does some act of antisocial criminality, rape, murder, theft. You take your entire family and you go and attack them and to teach them a lesson. So they don't do it again. So that's really the only. There is no real conquest. It's just fight. It's just fighting under certain circumstances. It's matters of honour. But when it gets to the point where cultures are settling, they are managing to exploit the environment and store food, and by doing so their population increases, that creates a situation where they either need to find new land. Obviously they have lots of children who grow up to also have children and so on. They either need new land or intensify their farming, and they do both. Human beings do both. And so you have your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren are setting up villages in marginal lands on the edge of your territory, and they're not prospering as well as they could be. Then they have children, and you get a situation there's not enough food to support everybody. It's at this point that either they decide they have to take somebody else's land, or they manufacture some sort of excuse. But then you attack your neighbours, and then once you've done that, you can't just let them be free to exploit the land and build up their resources again, because the whole point of it was that you didn't have enough resources yourself to feed your people. So what happens is you have one or two things happening. One, you say to them, we're disarming you, we will now, we're in charge, you will pay us X%, or you pay us a certain amount, maybe it's percentage, maybe it's not, a certain amount of your produce, which means that they can no longer make a profit and they're living just as subsistence farmers, and all of the surplus value goes to you. Or the second option is that you enslave them, and then your great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren go and be the owners of this new land you've occupied. And then all of those people, they're not making a profit, they just have you give them a little bit of food, enough to keep them alive, and in the meantime all the profits go to you. And that's how empires start, that's how nations start. Well, the state starts like that, and it creates a two-tier system, those who are superior and those who are inferior, and you get more than one class appearing over time due to different circumstances. But that's its beginning, that's how slavery starts. So it hasn't been amongst us forever, it's only something that's happened 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 years. In this country probably about 5,000 years. So that's how you create an aristocracy and kingship and so on, is that you dominate another people, force them to speak your language, and they become second class.